Good evening. I'm Mayor Javier Figueroa, and I'm calling the regular meeting of the City of University Place Council for Monday, June 17th, 2024 to order. So will the city clerk do the roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Councilmember Boykin.
Here.
Councilmember Worthington.
Present.
Councilmember McCluskey.
I'm here.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Grassi.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wood.
Present.
Mayor Figueroa.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And will Councilmember Fleming honor us with the Pledge of Allegiance today?
Yes, sir. Please join us in pledge to our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Anyone objects to the approved agenda? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. And now, item number 5, public comments, and we are in the public comment portion of the agenda, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments to the City Council about any items not appearing on the agenda or on the consent agenda. And so I'll go with those folks that are here, and I see we have one member of the public in attendance that signed up to have comments, and that is William Rucky. You come up and you can sit at the table and someone will show you and turn on the mic. And if you can please provide your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes. And you'll be clocked. You don't have to remember the 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is William Rupti. I'm representing Deeply Rooted Nature School, which is here in University Place, 4707 Elwood Drive West. And I just wanted to come straight to the top and let you guys know about this exciting new school we're starting right here in University Place. It's going to be an outdoor, fully outside nature school, so we think that it's going to really help the community and have a lot of good short-term impacts, but also long-term impacts as well, just to help contribute and keep developing this vibrant community of University Place. We're going to get kids outside, off of screens. Not only will there be strong academic outcomes, but it's going to help their physical health, their mental health. They're going to collaborate with each other, and we're just really excited to see the new leaders and innovators that this school will develop and what it brings to this community. So thank you. Just wanted to share that with you guys. So
awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
The instructions on how to participate, or you can go ahead and be seated. Thank you. The instructions on how to participate are shown on the screen if you're at home or somewhere that you're participating online. And so, so I'll ask the city clerk if there is anyone online that would like to speak.
I don't see anyone online, Mayor.
Okay, so at this point, I'm calling the public comments, closing the public comments, excuse me. And our next agenda is the consent agenda, and I call for a motion to approve or amend the consent agenda as proposed.
I so moved.
And I second.
Any objections to the consent agenda? Hearing none, unanimously passes. Thank you. Now we're heading on to public hearing and council consideration, and we'll start with item number 7, the 6-year transportation improvement plan adoption. And we'll start with a staff report by our Public Works Director, Jack Eklund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm Jack Eklund, Director of Public Works, and tonight I'm bringing to you for public hearing the annual update to the city's 6-year transportation improvement plan. The City of University Place is required by state law to adopt and annually update a 6-year transportation improvement plan, And this plan covers the years 2025 to 2030. This is the plan that was studied at the council meeting earlier this month. The primary changes to the plan include we removed the 35th Street Phase 1 project has been removed, as that will be completed by the end of the year. Funding statuses have been updated to reflect the Grandview intersection improvements, Chambers Creek Road roundabout project, and then also project schedules and costs have been updated. And then finally, we have added project number 46, the 67th Avenue crosswalk, in response to the direction from council at the study session. One of the follow-ups from the study session relative to that project, I did evaluate the distances from the nearby the crossing at 67th and Cirque, and did find that there is justification for a public purpose for a mid-block crosswalk in that vicinity. So this wouldn't be purely a project just purely benefiting the school itself. So there would also be a public one too. So due to the distance, this would be the only other kind of safe crossing between 67th Cirque Drive and Bridgeport. So, but with that, approval of the 6-year plan does not commit the city to any financial expenditures. Rather, each project will be reviewed individually by the council in each relevant budget cycle as a component of the capital improvement plan. Approval of the 6-year transportation plan, however, does create eligibility to the city to apply for various grant sources, and also many of these sources require a project in question to appear on the city's plan. In addition, this plan provides an indication to other jurisdictions of the city's transportation planning direction and our transportation needs. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions, but that concludes my report.
Okay, Council, as you know, good time to clarify what his presentation is, and later on, when we have a motion, we'll be able to discuss the item as you wish. So anyone have any clarification questions? Councilmember Fleming?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, Jack, I just wanted to say it's not so much a question as a comment, and thank you for that extra work you did on just kind of making sure we're doing it for the right reasons.
Yep.
So appreciate it. That's all. Good.
Okay. I'll save it for the comments. And I don't see anybody else, so we'll move on to the open public hearing. And any members of the public, I'm opening the public hearing portion of this 6-year plan, transportation improvement plan. And so if there's anyone here, and I don't see any from here, so I'm not going to ask again.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order from this side. I think we need a motion before we have a public hearing.
No, we don't.
No? Then I humbly apologize.
That's all right.
Thank you.
So with that, I don't see any members of the public here to make comment, any public hearing comments. So I'll close the public hearing at this time. Oh, excuse me. Is there anyone online?
No one online, Mayor.
I thought so. No. But there's no one online for a public hearing portion of this. So at this time, I will close the public hearing for the 6-year transportation improvement plan adoption. And now I'm calling for a motion for council consideration.
Mayor, I move that the council adopt a resolution approving the 6-year transportation improvement plan for years 2025 to 2030.
And I second.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go into discussion, comments, and so on. And anyone would like to start? Well, that's really easy. I will have a comment, and that is that, even though we said it, I don't know how many times, and your comments were very much on board, Councilmember Fleming, but it's a lot of work to do this, and to keep it straight and make the adjustments and understand our portion of what we need to do. It's a big deal, and as we all know, all of the major improvements in our city that has benefited our citizens or grants, and then we have to figure out which ones are going to go first, second, third, and I think that along with staff, the council has done a very good job in providing direction and feedback that allows them to move fairly quickly, I think. I don't think we've been a stumbling block to them, and I really appreciate that. So with that, I'll go for the vote, and will the city clerk call for the vote?
Councilmember Boykin,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthington,
Aye.
Councilmember McCluskey,
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Grassi,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wood,
Aye.
and Mayor Figueroa.
Yes.
Mayor vote results, 7 ayes. Motion
Okay.
carries.
Thank you, Mr. Eklund. Thank you, council. We'll move on to item number 8, and the city manager's report, along with the council comments and reports.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Quick report today. Administrative Services Director Lisa Batorik informed me that we submitted the grant application to the Defense Community Infrastructure Program that was reported at the last council meeting. The Mayor Pro Tem reported on that along with Lisa Batorik about the meetings we had with Colonel Park, if you recall. Colonel Park is the base commander at JPLM. In any case, the Defense Community Infrastructure Program needed the support of JPLM, and Colonel Park provided that letter of support. The application went in today. Today was the deadline, so just in time. And we're pursuing $16 or $17 million worth of funds, federal funds, for that Day Island Bridge replacement program. There's no guarantee, but you can't win if you don't play the game. So or you don't get yourself an application in there. So that application has been submitted. It was done, I think, in record time, given that there wasn't a whole lot of advance notification once we found out about it. And we had council members back in D.C. that a few months ago that said that, hey, there's this program, and then Lisa went to work with our partners at Delta Development, who does our federal grants consulting back in the D.C. Pennsylvania D.C. area, and then one thing led to another, which is the meeting we had 10 days ago with Colonel Park, who came in and was fully supportive, and then they just needed to review it. We did get a letter from them on Friday. And the whole package was put together and sent to D.C. today, to Arlington, Virginia. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. They definitely know about us now in D.C. Apparently, a lot of people now know about that Day Island Bridge. So and its need for replacement and how critical it is to serving the residents of the island as well as the entire west coast of the United States. So infrastructure. It's a strategic rail network. So I'm very pleased with the effort, especially with Lisa's work. She handled all the paperwork and was the central coordinator for all things related to the administration of this. And of course, and then she worked with our partners back east, Delta, who did a lot of the deep research on this and support materials. But anyway, thank you for that, and we'll just keep plugging. It's a bridge that ultimately does need to get replaced, and we'll just keep working at it until we get the funding. So with that, I'm going to end my report, Mayor. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll start with, where did I start last time? I think I started on that side. Let's start this side. Councilmember Boykin. Comments, reports?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say a couple of things. I wanted to certainly be appreciative of the recent opportunity for, in my view, to showcase University Place, having an event that was business-centric, really speaking economic development, a tandem effort with the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber, as well as our economic development department, and having a really great opportunity to engage with business owners as well as business leaders is always, in my view, the right step. It is also a privilege to be engaged in a city that is constantly mindful about how do we do differently those types of engagements to create interest and to underscore economic development. So beyond that, no really comments that I want to share, but just was really appreciative of that really well done event and enjoyed seeing council members to underscore and to provide support to that event as well.
Council Member
McCluskey.
McCluskey?
Or Belisi.
No. No.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor. Well, I had no idea the Day Island Bridge was so strategic. As a resident of Day Island, I'm glad to hear it. And I'm glad maybe that could, create some, synergy and action towards replacing it sooner than later. And Mr. Eklund knows my design standards. We've spoken in the past about certain things, and so I hope they're incorporated. If not, I'm not the expert by far on that. I had the opportunity to go to the Community Connection Places barbecue for the seniors, and Councilmember Grassi did a wonderful keynote speech. It was well attended, probably about 35, 40, I think 50. Maybe more, yeah, maybe 50. It was almost like a 7-course menu that she offered them with music, and so it was a nicely attended and well done event. Last Thursday was the quarterly Z-Trek Authority Board meeting, where we got to talk about the animals at the zoo and the trek. The attendance for 2023 was up a little bit to 283,138. That was for both zoo and trek. Zoo lights did give it a good bump in December, so that to keep in the back of your mind, if you want to help the zoo out a little more in their attendance and funding, attend Zoo Lights. The sales tax for the first quarter was trending ahead of 2023, which indicates in our financial report with the retail sales tax that's trending up. And they did an attendance survey as to where the people and kids came. And it wasn't all just from our county, so half came from our county. The other half came from outside of our county. So that's good to know. We're more of a regional draw. And at the zoo, there is a new penguin space that's going to be hopefully funded with a next capital funding project coming. And it has Zoo Society input and funding as well. And that's going to be a major upgrade to the penguin space, which is sorely needed. It hasn't been upgraded in decades. The porcupine habitat, the funding is already there for the Northwest Trek. And so the Northwest Trek Foundation had input into that. And so that should get out to design, and hopefully that will be upgraded and the porcupines will be happier in their new space. And they are thinking about going out to the county with another bond for different upgrades to their exhibits. Also, at the zoo, they did an accessibility of the zoo report for social, emotional support of not only the people that would come to visit, but for particularly the animals. How did they react to being viewed all the time? They're also introducing to some of their live program and interpretive centers an American Sign Language expert, so that people that can't hear will be able to get that experience as well. And they're also adding a lot of field trips too. So towards this time of year, they get a lot of field trips from schools, so they want to augment that with other field trips throughout the year. They had a regional aquatics workshop at one of the, I think it was the Murano in downtown Tacoma. They had over 500 people registered, and pretty much all of them attended. And the zoo was the primary sponsor and presenters for that. So they were quite happy with the attendance and also some of their workshops that came out of that. They have new babies. So they have, if I can say this right, 6 Magellanic penguins arrived. So there's little chicks there. There was also 5 red American red wolves that was born. They are now at an off-site facility, and they will be transferred back to the zoo, and then they will be, once they become more mature, they'll be transferred over to the southeast to help with that habitat restoration of their numbers. The Northwest Trek also did a relaunch of their trams. They had some issues with their brakes, and the brakes are computerized, so they had to get the Portuguese expert to come and show them what some of the glitches were. So it was nothing that was wrong with how they designed or manufactured it. It was all in the electronics. So that was taken care of, and they're up and running, and people are loving that new experience. It has a roof that goes from the front to the back, and larger windows, and it's quiet. So that experience is upgraded for not only the animals, but for the people as well. They also did a wildfire drill, and they figured out that there's about 3 hours for them to really evacuate the animals if they can get that time frame to keep them safe. And they're reassured that there's lots of lakes with waters that surrounds the Northwest Trek, so that will help in case they are threatened by wildfire. The northern leopard tadpoles have I guess, spawned, whatever they do. They're growing their little legs and tails, and that's a new program in addition to the frogs. They typically will release them when they're mature frogs, but now they're releasing them when they're tadpoles. And they're putting little tracker rods inserted in their bodies so that they will know when they grow up into frogs whether it's from the zoo or not, to increase their populations in the Northwest. And with that, I'll close out my report and the animal report for this quarter.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Ed Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So I had the pleasure, honor of being at that meeting with the Joint Base Garrison Commander and Chief of Staff as well, and Steve already gave a good summary of everything that was covered regarding the bridge, but I would like to add that after the conclusion of the meeting, the Colonel brought up the 2 issues that are deeply on his mind as a garrison commander, and that's housing, apparently short over 800-something housing units as an installation, and childcare, which is kind of a universal problem, but right now they're really struggling with that on post. And he was just asking if there's ways the city can find a way to partner, support, whatever else. Of course, not anticipating that question, we didn't have a good answer really. But I think it is something we should be looking at going forward, of just how we can be a better neighbor to the installation as well as them being a good neighbor to us. Also did on Friday the climate conversation meeting over in Puyallup with the county. They had a panel that was discussing, basically they got 4 planning experts, they're contractors who do climate planning, and had a lot of really good discussion about what they do and what they look for. There's actually a lot of discussion regarding coastal resilience, which I found very interesting, especially for us in Day Island and our coastal areas. There's one interesting little fact that I found out is when they do a climate action plan, all of them talk about how they first come in and assess what we're already doing. So, example, if we're building a sidewalk, that's increasing walkability. That is a climate action. And so they would take what you are already doing and make sure that it's annotated somehow, however they organize it or however we want to organize it, in the climate action plan, which I thought was interesting. Then after that panel, we went into a discussion broken out by large cities and small cities. And the large cities' key topic of discussion was how can we better support smaller cities in this kind of adventure. And the small cities are saying, what can we do partnering together? And one of the things that, again, talking about sidewalks, we recently are now partnering with Furcrest seeking a grant to build a sidewalk down 44th. That is, and since we are also going to be supporting them with engineering, that is a large city supporting the small city, doing just regular, sidewalks, but also in this case, climate action planning as well. So I thought that was interesting. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor Figueroa. A couple of quick things. One is I did have a chance to attend business after hours at Champions Bay. Great event. Our host, essentially the golf course and the contract operator there, which I was trying to remember their names. So one more time. Kemper Sports. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Always nice to get the help. But I thought they did an excellent job on the food and just highlighted the great facility they have and the quality food operation they have as well. Pleasure to be part of that. I was going to share with council that July 4th, I've asked the chief if I could do a ride-along. I think this is perhaps my 7th year to do that. On the 4th of July. It's the busiest day of the year in terms of police calls in our community. And last year, we had a new program for reporting fireworks, and I'm sure we'll be hearing, I think we had that in the newsletter that went out recently as well. Perhaps we'll talk about that here a little bit at some point too. But that program, of course, is now web-based, and the goal there is to decrease the volume of calls going to South Sound 911, our dispatch contractor. And now you make people file their complaint about fireworks online, and then our police officers will see those periodically. Last year we really the speed and the type of calls really were at a higher priority than most fireworks calls, and so I don't think at least the car I was in, I'm not sure we had much in the way of firework contacts. But it changes from one year to the next, and I was just checking with the chief, and I think there's still room, council members. If anyone else would like to do a ride along, there's still a chance.
I usually have a party at my house.
We'll all be there.
I am curious. I really am
Leave
curious.
this stick you in the back where the doors don't open.
We should do a ride along.
Yes, well, you could ride back there. But I'll give you a report then if you decide not to ride along. I'll give you some flavor for it when we get done. But in any case, I just wanted to mention that, and I look forward to seeing our officers at work. All right, thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilmember McCluskey should not have announced that. We'll all be there.
You're all welcome to come and bring your lounge chair around 9 p.m. You'll
Gotta
be
love it.
surprised at the fireworks.
All right. Nothing really from the past to report, but certainly wanted to share, since the majority of the folks on the dais here will be down at the Association of Washington Cities coming up. And, for the public, just so you know, it's not just another conference, but certainly a conference where all the electeds have an opportunity to get together throughout the state, talk about the issues that are near and dear to them with regards to their communities. And I am certainly looking forward to those meetings as well as the education that you get from participating in that program. And then lastly, representing the city on the legislative committee, or priorities committee, and I believe along with 2 other colleagues here were delegates to the conference. So excited about going and excited about reporting back when we get home. So thank you.
Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to echo the great work at the Partner Up event at Chambers Bay. That was wonderful to attend, and thank you to business owners that were there and to make it a quality event for our community. Again, Kemper Sports and Chambers Bay that hosted us did an excellent job, and economic development team and their crew. So thank you so much. I also want to say, before I go on, a special thank you to all of our community that's watching online. And I know that sometimes we, might not be remiss to say there are so many people that watch the replay and are watching us online. And I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch and be informed and make your calls and hear your comments. It's important to us. So thank you for watching. I also want to say special congratulations to the class of 2024. Got to be involved at some graduation parties for our seniors from Curtis. Also had the honor of giving the commencement address this week for the Science and Math Institute. And that was such an honor to congratulate those graduates, many from seniors from University Place. So it was wonderful. But all of you that have graduated in our community, congratulations. You finished well, and that's an important accomplishment. As Councilmember McCluskey mentioned, I did give the keynote at the Community Connection Place Senior Annual Barbecue. It was great. It was wonderful to serve barbecue alongside Councilmember McCluskey. We were great waitresses, if I do say so myself, and a great turnout. And Sheila and her team just do a fantastic job of serving that community. So thank you so much. I look forward to their Princess Tea that's going to make a comeback here in October. It's going to be at the Monarch Theater here in University Place, so I'm excited for that. I also had an opportunity to talk with Melanie Kirkstoffer of Dance Theater Northwest, and she's looking for volunteers for her teddy bear picnic that's happening in July. So I will be there at the adoption booth for teddy bears with my kids, but I encourage our community to be a part of that event, and if you'd like to serve, she'd love to have volunteers for that as well. And want to thank our staff and our mayor, too, for the completion of our goal setting that we did last week. I think that was such well done work, hard work by our staff, by the mayor, by Mayor Pro Tem, and to get us on track for 24-25. And I'm really looking forward to the goals that we set. So thank you for all of your hard work on that, and to staff for making us ready for the days ahead. So I am, too, looking forward to AWC and connecting with other jurisdictions. But it is I don't take it lightly that we're able to make this investment and continue learning, making our community the best way it can grow. And so I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the last comments, I just want to add to the Chamber UP event. And kudos to Becky Metcalf. Please share that with her. And the reasons that she deserves some kudos is because she was instrumental in putting together what I consider kind of rare. The Chamber of Commerce has what they call what's the real name?
Ambassadors.
Huh?
The ambassadors that you're alluding to?
They hold a quarterly or something like that around the county where their members come and network and meet, but it's all over the county. And membership is invited. So I don't think that we had ever held one in UP. And so this was the first one where we partner up with the Chamber on their county-wide get-together. There's a name for it. And so, and it was 120 people. It was packed full. And we got to have a lot of businesses that have never been in UP or even seen the Chamber. I don't know how many met and says, this is beautiful, I've never been here. That means that they probably got to Trader Joe's and stopped. But that's no easy task. It was full. The food was great. Everything was done really nice. The Chamber had a full staff there, making sure it signed up and everything else. So it was really nice. I think that the Chamber felt welcome. They felt included in what was going on, and I believe we'll be seeing them again in this similar event. So very nice. And a lot of them spoke, I should say, a lot of those businesses and folks that had never been here, they really spoke highly as they came in. They said, this is a really nice city. And they liked the view, and they liked it. I said, well, we need to come over here and play and hike. So I said, yeah. So anyway, the second comment I have is back to JBLM, the bridge. Yes, as we started, Councilmember Worthington, and I started last year trying to get more attention on the bridge replacement, we got smarter and better at the messaging and how we, and then of course we continue this year with Mayor Pro Tem Wood and myself and the staff. We all just kind of began to grow into what we had here and who really needs to be involved. And we just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I in D.C., Councilmember Grassi and I at the South Sound Military Community Breakfast. And so it's just kind of one after another that it took us to something that we didn't even think about, that the military would have money we could apply for. We were always applying with FEMA and transportation, but we never even had an idea that the military had such a program that allowed a community to apply for. But that was a stipulation. You had to have the commander's letter saying yes. And so we got that. And but it also shows, I don't think that a commander does that lightly. Not only that he has some really good questions, and it was obvious that he had already looked into it and was willing to keep the options open and how JBLM could participate in this. But one of the things for sure is I felt like he was somebody that understood UP, and we were very favorable to him because of the military that is here. He was interested in how many military actually lived here and so forth. But as Mayor Pro Tem Wood mentioned, he is housing, which is, by the way, he says if you can be part of us figuring that out or helping us leverage it, whatever it could, it's one of the top number one priority with the Department's defense. And they will open the door to make anything, to help anything happen. That's his words, to get housing for the military. I mean, literally, he says, you help us, they will figure it out how to make it happen. So that's when I was asking you, Councilmember Fleming, how can we get JBLM involved with SHAPE? They should be at the table. And because of some policy, how do we lobby and advocate and get that changed? I think that will be something that they deserve to be at the table, because their members are our members, and they're just like another city. And certainly, if we can do that, it would definitely. And we were known to do that. I think that we will be very favorable to them. So any help you can do that. I think I asked Kevin. I don't see him here, but Mr. Brisky, Steve, will you please make sure? Because to me, for us, this is really important that gets followed up. But, we have staff here that meets with staff from SHAPE. That really has to be followed up. And we should not take a no. How do we change it? And that's because he himself said this is the number one priority for the base and the Department of Defense. Now, there was these child care, but there was another one that was really interesting. He says after-school youth programs. That was a big one. Actually bigger than, I think, the child care. And so I did mention, it just so happens, we're looking at recreation and youth programs. And I did ask him, does your funding or support allow to partner up with non-military, where it's not just military, doesn't have to be just military? He says, no, it could be both. It doesn't have to be military for them to spend money on any program. So again, I think that we need to look at the staff as we ask. In our goal setting, staff come with partners. We should identify a big, huge partner that actually has a DOT stamp of approval. This is a priority, and how to fund and participate in providing resources for youth programs to occur that will include military youth. So I think it's important that we follow up on that, considering we've got three members of this council that are veterans. The last one is, and I think I've mentioned it several times, but since our last meeting, I did go to a Pierce County Tacoma World Cup meeting briefing by the World Cup committee, and all I can say, because there's so much information, and I'll be debriefing with Lisa joined me at that meeting, And so much, and we haven't had time because we've been focusing on the bridge. But as soon as we can catch our breath, we'll put this together in a summary and share with you what I learned and what was said and what we can expect in the near future and also all the way to 26. Okay? So I won't go into much deeper because we're running out of time here. But I did want to mention there's a lot of work. We are most likely, I will say, in the next month or so, the World Cup will select the 9 official fan zones in Washington State. We're fighting hard for Chambers Bay to be one of them. And if it is, we certainly have a huge role as a city and how that's going to happen. So I'll leave it as that, and thank you for your time. I'll move on to... we're now in the study session portion of our agenda. And so item number 9, and we'll have early redemption of outstanding bonds first with staff Eric Fayason, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Eric Fayason, Assistant City Manager, and I'm here with Leslie Blaisdell, our Finance Director. This is a follow-up to your retreat where you had a pretty in-depth discussion about the two of the study session items. This first one deals with an opportunity to repay a little over half of the city's debt, which there should be rounds of applause right now. But basically, we have about $33 million in debt. It has been one of the criticisms that the city has faced over the years, ever since we invested in Town Center, which turned out well, but we still have the remaining debt. We have the opportunity to pay off about half of the debt, $17.1 million. The redemption date is in the middle of 2026. So what is proposed here, and as we discussed at the retreat, is that we would authorize the city manager to redeem these bonds, and we would include in the upcoming budget for 25-26 the repayment of those. So it's that simple. You guys have any questions? Let me know.
Okay, so we'll go with Councilmember McCluskey.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I like how that sounds. Reducing it by half, that's huge. And I know you have a special chart that shows how the savings over time to the city, which is also huge as well. And we could do things a lot better than just paying off the debt to somebody else if we could do that. So thank you for, once again, your creativity, looking into it and figuring out how we can make the city even more solvent. So I appreciate that. And I'm really excited that, half the debt, that's really huge. I thought my tenure on council, I would never see a lot of that paid off. So, I'm really excited that I have the opportunity to be able to be a voice in that action. So, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. If you could just refresh our memory about what was the overall savings that we get by paying the debt off in advance versus carrying it to term?
$4.2 million.
Thank you.
And I will say that this idea came from council, not from staff. We followed up and did the work, but this was an idea that was brought up in your retreat a year ago.
Well, so others I know have something to say potentially, so I'll warm this up a little bit more, tee it up some more. This is a long time coming. We were in serious debt to the point of no return, and at $55 million in bond debt, $55 million, and with no future ahead of our hole in the ground. This is now 14 years later. 14 years is not a lot of time to get to the point of huge debt, no real revenue, and to the point that not only are we talking about this, about our reserves, or beyond what we ever thought, and increasing our ending fund balance beyond whatever we imagined way back then, because now we're talking about not only paying off half of our bonds, but we're reducing it to 16 plus million, which is compared to 55, and saving all this money on behalf of our citizens says a lot for not only staff but council direction on how we want on our budget. It's been a huge teamwork. I don't believe it's more or less from one party, but I think it's been a teamwork. It's been a lot of debates, not so nice debates, some nice debates. But at the end, we have now accomplished something that I don't think that a lot of people, the critics that I heard when I came on board, said, you guys are going to belong to Pierce County. Literally, that's what were the comments. And this says a lot for we can have so much in fund balance that we can pay this huge amount and still have money left to allow us to continue operations and do what we need while the savings can occur and build up our in fund balance back to where we can just be where we're at again. So I'm saying this because whoever's listening, I hope you're right, Councilwoman Grassi, that is people are listening and reviewing this. They need to understand where we came from in a what I consider a very short time, 14 years. We're in a whole different world, and not only that, but we show it in the improvements that we have. We show it in the contracts we get because of the quality of staff that we have to get those grants. And we show it in our citizens in UP who seem to be very happy, very content, and show up at events. And I just hear a lot of positive comments. With that, I'd like to just know that definitely support anything that saves us money. One of the it wasn't a promise or a guarantee, but we always were trying to get our constituents to understand because a lot of them did. Those that were really involved in the city, they always want to reduce our debt. 55 million. How do you get out of that hole? Especially when very little revenue was coming in. And here we are, magically. Seriously, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how we actually did it. But again, it was a lot of hard work. So we should be celebrating. We should be half glass full for sure. And I look forward to our city continuing to grow, not only in how what we provide in benefits to our citizens, but the growth that we believe will happen here in University Place, which we are teeing our city government up for success. So thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Boykin, I knew I was going to warm somebody up.
You absolutely did warm me up, Mayor. Thank you so much. I was candidly excited about being reminded that the city of University Place has one more reason to claim that it is the city that is the city of destination. And I don't believe it's magic. I do believe that there are some very seasoned professionals that saw a problem, decided to solve it, and have stayed consistent in doing just that, gotten real good ideas and real strong skill to try to bring about what had to, at some point, seem nearly insurmountable, $55 million, and then some worth of debt. A strong investment that we can see, a strong investment that people also continue to gravitate around, see as attractive, and see as one of the anchor. So that makes University Place that much more of a very strong projection of positivity, and that excites me. The only thing that could be more exciting is significantly reducing that debt in the time frame that has happened. And again, not magic, but a real strong plan, and at this point, a real strong option to continuously suggest that there are very invested people to make university that continued expectation that continued place of destination. So I'm appreciative of that. But I do have one question, Mr. Faison, if you could just put in perspective, if this were to pass, what would it look like in terms of University Place compared to other cities that either had an opportunity, good, bad, or indifferent, or just took advantage of this opportunity? What, if you will, could you help me understand how University Place might stack up among its peer cities or beyond?
It's kind of a twofold response to that. One is that we've had, with our high level of debt, it has held us back a little bit in terms of bond rating and stuff like that. We were not necessarily comparable with other cities our size around the country or in Washington. So we were an outlier. I think with this repayment, we won't be an outlier in that respect. The second part of that is council has always, since the Great Recession, had a long-term view. And part of what it has allowed us to do this is that you've been willing to sacrifice and do the things that you needed to do in order to stabilize our finances overall that put us in the position to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. And from that perspective, I think we are probably better off than most cities, particularly in the Puget Sound region, in terms of the mayor talked about the strength of our reserves, the strength of our ending fund balance, the strength of our public safety fund. Voters have a role in this as well. So it's that long-term view that I think sets us apart. So it will be interesting if council decides to do this, and we again have, a bond rating that comes up again, being able to see how we compare from that perspective. But I think from the public's perspective, and from the long-term view of the stability of this city, whether it be staff being happy that they're not going to be laid off in the next Great Recession because we have strong finances, or the public not seeing a reduced service level because we have strong finances. Those sorts of things set us apart from, I think, some of our neighbors. I won't say directly neighbors, but neighbors in the region.
Thank you so much for that.
Mayor Pro Tem Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to walk through what I think is a mechanism we're using this by based on our study session, but please correct me if I got this wrong. And then I will have a follow-up question. So what we're doing to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to basically take the $17 million out of our general fund reserves, and then we're going to take future payments that we would have made towards debt to replenish our reserves. Is that correct?
It's ending fund balance.
It's an ending fund balance, not our reserves.
Okay,
our
so
strategic
ending fund
reserves,
balance.
yeah.
Let's get the
Yes.
terms right.
Yes. So yes, we're just taking it out of our cash on hand in the general fund. We accumulated that cash. Again, looking long term, we know that we accumulate cash, and over time, that's going to go down some.
Correct.
So we're using it now, but the benefit is that we are saving the $4.2 million that you pointed out, which strengthens that cash flow over the long term. So it's a combination of, yes, we get to, we have this cash that we can use now, but it also is going to save us cash that's going to help us later.
No, absolutely. And then, so my second question is then, how long will this take under this kind of basically payment plan to ourselves before our ending fund balance comes back to where it is today?
2033.
2033.
It will be slightly above where it would have been had we not made the payment. And thereafter, we'll have about $4.2 million more than we would have had we not come out of the debt.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor Figueroa. And Eric, thank you, and Leslie as well. Indeed, this is a very significant step that we're considering. And it is a grand step, something that everyone has worked towards. And I think that Councilmember Boykin talked about the professionalism that was involved in this, and indeed that is the case. And it was a team sport. It was not an individual. We all got to wrestle on this at one point or another. We also aren't quite done, but it seems like we can see the goal line. So that's good. I did have a couple of detailed questions just to make sure I want to make that I'm understanding this right. So, excellent, of course, to save $4.2 million in interest expense over the full maturity of these bonds. And then we also at some point we'll reduce whatever the cash, whatever the debt service amount is that we spend annually, and I was curious, what is that amount, more or less?
So our total debt service is about $3.4 million approximately, and during this period, and our debt is structured so that it's about that amount all the way through 2034, 2036?
34.
2036.
36.
And by paying this off early, our debt payment will drop to about $1 million until 2032, I think it is, or so, and then it'll jump back up because this was the middle period of that structured payment.
And are we able to pay all of the outstanding bonds in 2026, or do we have to ladder those payments as they mature?
These are the only bonds that are redeemable at this time in 2026.
But it's more or less a single payment, maybe, in any case, it's payments that are made during the course of 2026, let me put it that way. Is that right?
Clarify, I'm sorry.
So the 17 million and change, 17.1 million, we're going to expense that in the calendar year of 2026.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. The way I was looking at some maturity dates here, I was trying to figure out if those are maturity dates or call dates, and
It's call date.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Maturity date would have been 2034.
Okay.
Yeah, on that one. We have others that, as I mentioned, the way we structured it.
Yeah. Okay. But so we're making that payment though all during in 2026, and then that money is out. The obligation goes away on those bonds. Okay. Great. And thank you. I think that was just what I wanted to get clarity on. I appreciate that. I had a chance to read the draft resolution, and otherwise, it's understandable to me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Fleming, before we go to you, if I may, follow-up question with Councilmember Worthington, and that is, so it reduces the 3.4 debt service to 2.4, approximately.
No, to about 1 million, a little over 1 million.
Oh, down to 1 million. Oh, excuse me. Okay, that's why I wanted to correct. So it goes down about 2.4 for these, even though half of the debt is being paid off. It was the heavy debt with a higher interest rate or something like that. Okay. So that 2.4 million less in debt service, does that go toward the counting of you when you say we'll be saving or we'll be bringing back in 4.1 something million? Part of that 4.1 is that 2.4?
So part of that 2.4 is principal and part of it is interest.
Okay, got it. Okay. But whatever that is that we're saving, is that part of what you're claiming that we will be adding to our ending fund balance of the 4.1? Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eric, I got a couple comments and then a couple of questions. I do want to say, since the day I first saw this whole idea, I've liked it because it accomplishes exactly what you had said, and certainly kudos, to the staff and to the new businesses in our community that really have helped drive the opportunity for us to pay this off early. So kudos to all those folks. I also believe that we're going to continue to be a great city and continue to grow businesses and be a great place. You made a comment that caught my attention, and that was, you said the debt payment drops to $1 million a year, and that the debt would be paid off by 2034. Is that correct?
For this particular bond, the overall debt, so at 2034, 2035, it will pop back up for 35, 36, and 37.
And that's on the remaining balance.
Correct.
So let me play a what if with you, because I got a little pocket calculator here and I play with numbers all the time. You know.
I have one too.
I know. But she's not a pocket calculator. She's one of those.
She's the mega calculator.
Exactly. I was telling Leslie earlier, the CFO of the company is the one who holds the keys to the business, as I've learned from my CFO. If you take that $1 million and you add from the savings and make that payment off at 1.5 to roughly $2 million, then that reduces the loan payoff to roughly a little over 5 years instead of 10. Is that something that's in the interest of the city to consider?
You're already over my head here. So you're saying if taking the remaining, make sure I understand, the remaining,
I can hear them, and that's good.
So you're saying if you take the remaining $2.4 million and put it towards the other debt? To pay
Well,
that
not
faster?
all the 2.4, because you're currently paying 2.4, right?
No, we're paying 3.4.
Or 3.4, and it's going to
2.4 for this particular debt
2.4, and you're reducing it at the payoff to 1 million.
to $1 million.
What happens if you, instead of the 2.4, or you could go 2.4, I wouldn't recommend that, but if out of your normal 2.4, you're now down to 1.4 savings somewhere, you're going to put that money, but took another 500,000 out of that 1.4 and applied that to the principal of the debt,
Of the remaining debt.
of the remaining debt.
And that would be essentially calling the bond early, which we wouldn't be allowed to do.
Okay, that's part of the question, because I know some bonds you can and some you can't.
Yeah, these we can.
So,
You won't have, I think it's 2029 is the next opportunity to call some of the debt. So you'll have a chance to do that. I have a feeling that might not be as advantageous because the interest rate on that debt is significantly lower than this debt.
so you take me down another pathway. And you can pay that debt down to 2029, provided you don't pay it off. So, which reduces your principal and interest along the way.
You wouldn't save anything because there's a make whole provision, which means basically you have to pay that interest.
Whether you
Whether
paid
you pay
it down
off early or not.
Well, not paid off, but paid down.
Pay down is the same
You still
as
pay
paying
the same
off a
interest.
portion of it. So whatever portion you pay off, you still have to pay the same interest. There's no advantage to calling it early unless somehow you can make substantially more by investing that money. So
Yeah, so it's to our advantage then to wait till 2029.
yes,
And take whatever we're saving, that 1.4, and set a portion of that aside, so when we hit 2029, we can just pay it off at that point.
yeah. I mean, I think you would.
If we want to, when we
If you
get
want
there.
to, I mean,
Yeah.
you will have enough in your ending fund balances that you could do that.
Yeah,
Uh,
without impacting the city.
Yeah, I think at least a portion of it. So after you pay this off, I can't remember from that forecast what you have in front of you.
Yeah.
Says how much in general fund, ending fund balance you have in 2029.
Roughly about half. But whatever that number is, it puts us, I guess the bottom line is it puts us in a really good position to whether eliminate it or do whatever we want in 2029
I believe
on
that's
that
true.
one. So, all right. My last question is, just for clarification, on your paragraph 3, you talked about where the city's going to lose an interest earnings of the 7.1, and then our investment return rates will be less than 5%, but based on a 3% net difference, we can expect our returns and estimates to be about that 4.2 million in overall savings. Help me get from that 5% less to the 3% net difference.
I probably went a little too deep there. We don't know.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I'm just trying to connect the dots.
I will say we don't know what our rate of return will be,
Right.
come 2026. And so therefore, you don't know whether you want the city manager to move forward with that right away or not. So what you're doing as part of this is basically saying, yes, we're going to put it in the budget. And then when it comes to that time, you will make another evaluation. I should say Leslie will make an evaluation of what's better, pay off then or wait. Because it's callable any time period thereafter, you could wait 6 months, you can wait a year, you can wait, but overall, it won't require additional approval on your part, because technically even repayment doesn't require your approval other than your budgeting for it. But, we'll come back to you and say, okay, here are the rates. What do you guys think?
Okay.
Should we wait a year or should we just move forward?
Okay, so these numbers here are pretty much a swag at this point.
Yeah.
All right. That makes more sense, because like I said, when it comes to numbers, I like to connect the dots on them.
Yeah.
So, all right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Well done.
Would you like to, any? No? Okay, so
I don't think I have anything
Councilmember
fresh
Worthington, I think he raised his hand.
Thank you. So a question for you, and into the weeds just a little bit. I think you probably have done this calculation. And it is, so on a cash flow basis, doing this, what year and what amount is the lowest amount we estimate the general fund to reach as an ending fund balance?
It would be 2026,
Okay.
and it'd be $2.4 million.
2.4?
Yep.
Okay, and do you know the rough percentage of that, that's about 10% of the general fund? No.
The general fund, no.
5%?
Probably 25%, because we have about a 10 million general fund. We're distinguishing between the general fund and our operating budget.
Right, yeah,
Which
and
is bigger.
But we're talking specifically
just
general fund.
I think we'll be between 8 and 10 million, somewhere around there, so it'll be between.
And we'll have 2.4 of an $8 to $10 million budget, so
Yep.
24% of
Yeah, it's still
healthy.
It's
Yeah.
less than we've been doing, but it is still healthy.
Yeah.
And we also will have ending fund balances in other funds that are legally general fund that you could use or you could borrow from and repay.
Yep.
Because we'll be gaining balance fairly quickly when you're not paying that extra 2.4 million.
Right. So yes, we have backups or Plan Bs, Cs, and Ds if we need them.
Absolutely.
But okay. But thank you. Yes, that's a healthy, all things considered, and what it brings to us. Yeah. Thank you.
27%.
Okay, I think we're good. So direction. So specifically, what direction are you asking for?
We would like to put a resolution on the consent agenda, the next meeting, that would authorize the city manager to basically add this to the budget and to authorize the expenditure should it come to pass that it is advantageous.
Okay, so everybody heard that? So with that, anyone objects to that, please object now.
Thank you. Yes, I don't object to consideration of the resolution. What I think, the question in my mind is I think this would better serve our public and our purposes and the education of our community if it was on the regular agenda and not on the consent agenda. So,
You heard Councilmember Worthington, not that it's a vote, but just a direction in that way. Anybody that would like to support that idea, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. This is important. There's 2, 3. Pardon me? So there's only 3, so.
3 and myself would be 4.
No, there's only.
I think you had everyone.
Oh, I should see, you don't, I said raise your hand, to be clear.
Mayor, I didn't recognize what you're trying to do is get a vote. I just thought you
No.
wanted to achieve support
Excuse
for
me,
an
thank
idea.
you. So I think there's some enough emphasis to see that in the regular agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
to pull it from the consent agenda, you just need one.
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not pulling. He's asking we don't do that. So we're going to put it in the agenda, okay? Not in the consent agenda. Is that will that pose? Well,
Leslie and the city manager will have to handle that.
Yeah, the consideration, yes. I'll make sure it gets on the agenda, council members. Okay. So, anything else of concern? You have your direction. Is that clear for you? Okay, good. Well, we'll close this study session and item, and we'll go to the next one, and that is, excuse me. Item number 10, vehicle license fee, which used to be the Transportation Benefit District. And again, staff, Mr. Faison, and will lead this.
All right, Council, this too is a follow-up from what you've discussed at the January retreat. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of long-range planning. This is a fund that is projected to go negative in 2029. So part of what we're asking, well, we're not asking, part of what we're discussing tonight is how to solve that negative balance, as well as this fund. We've talked about the deficit in staffing in the Public Works Department. This also is how to add one position to that department. And the history goes back to where actually, I have in here background starting in 2013. Actually, it was 2009 that Council first adopted Transportation Benefit District, but they did not fund it until 2013. And there was some concern that there was a risk that we would lose the opportunity to fund it unless we did so. And so in 2013, Council funded it with a $20 vehicle license fee. That fee was increased to $20.35 in 2018, which was after Council assumed the district, which allowed us to eliminate a lot of paperwork side of things. So it's the same, as the mayor indicated, kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other in terms of name, but this is really related to a fee that would fund transportation improvements with a particular emphasis on pavement in the residential neighborhoods and paving in areas that don't receive grant funding. So in 2020, the TBD, or the vehicle license fee by itself, did not solve the deficit in the fund, and Council adopted a utility portion of our utility tax that went to the street fund. When doing that, it happened to coincide a time period when there was had been a legal challenge to the vehicle license fee. Someone challenged the state's authority to allow cities to impose the fee. That was rejected by the state Supreme Court. But we chose to save money so that we didn't have to repay the money. So we had a healthy fund balance as a result of saving that. And so Council decided to reduce the fee down to $10 and spend that fund, and then to revisit the fee in 2025. So what we discussed at the retreat were various options on how to solve the deficit in this particular fund. And what we heard overall was there was an interest in doing $40 beginning in 2026. So 2026 will be a pretty eventful year if this happens. And so that would be what we are looking for Council discussion and kind of direction on as we move forward.
Okay, before I go around the table, I just want to maybe add to that, and that is the reason we're looking at it now is because, as you all know, and this is how we've gained traction with our finances, is that we look long-term. And in order to look long-term, we need to kind of figure this out now, sooner than later, because if we say no for the 2025 decision that we could have waited, it impacts how council goals are met, and potentially how staff with Parks and Rec and all those kind of things come into play, whether we do this decision and staff will know, okay, well, we have this monies now because we say yes or we don't, and they can adjust the budget because it's a 25-26 budget. So that's the reason we're visiting this now. So, Mr. Faison?
And just to follow up on that, one of the scenarios you looked at was if you didn't do it now and instead waited until 2029 when the deficit is here, could you still balance that fund out through our planning period? And the answer was no. So even if you maxed out the rate at that point in time, you would have lost this many years and therefore still wouldn't be able to balance the fund.
Yeah. So take any questions or comments?
Okay.
Councilmember McCluskey?
Yeah, I know when we did this, we were doing some franchise fees, utility fees, and so we cut this. When we did that one of those utility fees, wasn't that going towards the street funding of that?
Excuse me a second,
And-
but Councilmember,
Can you
can
hear
you
me?
put the mic really close to you? Because they're
I
trying to
thought it
record
was.
this.
It's not on.
Oh, it's on?
I see it red.
No, it's on.
it's on.
It's on,
It's
it's
on?
just not
Okay.
close enough.
Ours is-
Okay. I'll get closer, thank you. So do you know what utility fee that went towards?
Yes, it was a sewer.
The sewer, right. And did that service our streets?
The sewer, I think one of the ways we correlated it was that the sewer was more likely to impact the streets
Impact
in
the
terms
streets?
of tearing up the streets.
Okay,
and that sort of stuff.
right, okay. So that really didn't do anything for improving the streets or maintenance and repairs?
Well, the revenues.
Unless it was cut into by the
No,
sewers?
no.
All right.
So the revenues raised by the sewer utility tax went to the street fund and was what was used as part of our pavement maintenance program. So we have
Okay.
done pavement maintenance since.
Right.
So,
And apparently that's not enough,
No,
not nearly enough.
no.
So I look at the vote on lowering that as probably not the best move. So I would look at rectifying that. And I don't like to, and I'm looking at the chart that you have in our packet, the forecasting. And I see where we could establish a more healthier fund and get it sooner than later if we go to the $40 fee. And my request is that when we did the TBD for $35, we had a portion of that going towards private streets to maintain. I guess we're doing more chip seals, Jack? Okay. And my request is that, I know that's not enough money, but at least it's something that we could integrate into the private streets to keep them from going further into whatever disrepair they may be going in due to the wear and tear.
And just a quick clarification, I think it's not private streets, it's local streets. So
Local
the
streets.
non-arterial streets, I think.
Thank you for that correction,
Yeah.
because I know that's important.
Yeah, but yes, so the plan would be to restore the funding level for the local streets that we had been doing prior to. And as Eric mentioned, we had that surplus built up when the utility, when we first cut that rate down. And so we've been kind of using that as a Band-Aid, but that's all dried up at this point. But yes, you're 100%, that's the intent, is to use this fund to help maintain our local streets. We have no other funding source available.
Yeah, you already have that program set up so that you could recycle it back as needed once you do all the, streets in the city, local streets in the city. Yes. Okay, so I would like to, that would be my suggestion, is to get that up to a healthy revenue sooner than later. Thank you.
Councilmember Fleming?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eric, as I've said to you continuously, I kind of struggle with this one for the reasons that Councilmember McCluskey had expounded on earlier. I'm just trying to get my head around this to understand really what it does for us. When we had this discussion back in 2020 and we got the council on board for a utility tax, I remember it was a struggle, but we got there somehow with that. And we reduced the tax from $30 to $10 with the idea that we were adding one tax, so we would reduce one fee, and then we would still have money to take care of our streets. And then as soon as we got this tax passed, I then hear, well, now we need the other one back without reducing this tax. So it's, if I was looking at it as a consumer, I would feel it's kind of a double whammy without understanding all the details behind it. So, I haven't heard we're going to reduce utility tax, but we're going to put the other one back to 100% and still collect the utility tax. So I'm just trying to get my head around this so I can understand if we're going back to 100% and we're not taking away the tax that we told people we were offsetting, we're actually going to be collecting more in the long run. How does that help our community? I understand we need to pave roads and all that, but I want to make sure that people understand we're not pulling a fast one on them in terms of, we'll reduce this to get this tax and then we'll come back and collect the rest of the tax on you. Because that's the message that I hear, and that's the concern I think people have. So how are we, numbers can be whatever we want them to be, as we all know. How do we justify what we're trying to do now? Because it really does kind of feel like we're pulling the fast one on the public here.
Yes, and I can understand the confusion. I think, as I put in my memo, that when we adopted the utility tax, if we would have kept it at $35, the vehicle license fee at $35, the fund would have been solved. It would have been fixed and done. I wouldn't be back to you here today. However, in part to make the utility tax politically palatable, we decided to use the surplus that we had from the vehicle license fee. And so that was always going to be temporary because there was a finite amount of money in that surplus, which is why council said we will revisit this in 2025. So in 2026, if you went back to $35, we would be close to solving it, but there's another interim event, which is inflation. The cost of doing everything went up dramatically. So going back to $35 wouldn't even get you what you could have gotten at $35 4 years ago. So I hope that kind of explains it. The bottom line is you just used a finite amount of money over a period of time to lessen the blow of institution of the utility tax. Well, that finite amount of money is gone. That time period is almost gone. And so we're back to you asking to at least go back to where you were.
Okay. And I appreciate that. That helps a lot. When we look at other pots of money that we kind of set things aside for, like we just had the discussion on reducing our debt, are there any other opportunities within our budget to pull monies from that to offset this without having to do this taxing fee increase? And what I'm saying out loud here is, instead of paying off the $17 million, if we paid off like $16 million and put $1 million into this program, is that viable or not?
So the deficit that we're talking about solving looks like it is $15.7 million during the planning period. So
over what period of time?
That's through 2044.
From now to 2024?
2044.
Starting when?
Starting now. So even now, you're spending down the balance that you have in that fund. There's not a surplus balance in the fund. You're at deficit spending. So that amount of money, I think, is very prohibitive to pull from somewhere else. Clearly, you're not going to pull from the Public Safety Fund, which is our current fund with a large balance, because voters committed to that's going to last at least 10 years. The general fund, you've heard me say it many times, there is no easy alternative to the general fund. It's not easy to go to voters and say, we're going to dedicate this money to pay the clerk's office. Will you vote for it? Or to pay finance. And the clerk's office and finance, all legally mandated. So you're not going to cut those in the long run.
Right.
So we run a pretty thin operation here in the city. There's not, and we don't have a lot of extra resources existing or extra taxing ability that is easy. So,
And that all makes sense, and I appreciate that immensely. So you're looking for $785,000 a year over that 20-year period, if my numbers are correct.
I think that's right.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay,
I have no further questions, Mr.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Worthington?
Actually, I've decided to pass for now.
Okay, anyone else? Oh, Councilmember Wood, Mayor Pro Tem Wood?
So just because I'm a little reluctant on this too, as you're well aware. No secrets there. I understand the financial reasoning behind this and doing all this, but what I'm concerned about is, well, recently the voters did approve that extra, public safety levy. We followed immediately upon the heels of that with a surface water management fee increase. And now we're looking at the vehicle license fee. Is there any other ending fund balance in our budget that is looking at a significant deficit that we're going to be addressing sometime in the next 2 to 3 years?
No, this is
it.
This is it.
This is it. Okay.
This is it.
I want to make that clear. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make some comments. As we all know, street maintenance is a critical component of what citizens want. If there's one complaint I hear, I have to choose my words, how not well kept the streets are in other cities, and really are upset about it for many reasons, car damage, other things that happen, and what I hear of our streets, as and we do with minimum dollars, is a far cry. We're in a really nice position that we have. I don't know, and it depends, it's relative, but based on what we have done and trying to keep up with our cities aesthetically, streets, lights, sidewalks, you name it, it's really a desired city to come. I just hear it all the time. I heard it at the Chamber of Commerce deal. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Streets is a major thing, and so there's no lie when it comes to asphalt and all that. The inflation on this just continues to go up, period. And we've always just been maintaining the main arterials and whatever local streets here and there, but we really haven't maintained, we don't really get a chance to maintain the cycle that they're supposed to regularly, like they're supposed to on all our streets. This is going to, actually I don't think, and you might want to correct me on this, does this, even if we pass the 40 and it start in 2026, would that take care of us maintaining all the local streets?
I think Jack would say no. Over a period of time.
Yeah, it allows us to kind of maintain that program. Right now, we're able to do chip seals on local streets about 7 miles a year, and we have about 250 lane miles of roadways overall. And so chip seals themselves are about a 7 to 10 year benefit, usually more like 7, you think. But so you do have to rotate it around, but it's certainly, by able to maintain this, we're able to then hit the hot spots and jump on the streets that need it most. And so, it will be a bit of a, still a little bit of the spinning plates on the sticks, right? That we'll have to be monitoring which street needs the plate spun up again. But this gives us the tools to be able to do that. If we don't have that, then we basically take away what we're doing to the local streets. We just don't have any capacity to do those at all.
So as you can see, it doesn't even cover that, and so I believe that we need to do it now. And as we all were brainstorming here, what funds in the future can be contributed if we didn't do this. I think that as we are smart about our finances like we have and let that in fund balance grow and other things grow, that we can, 4, 5, 8, 7 years from now, see how a permanent part of those in fund balances can be contributed to maybe adding to this because of inflation and we're still not covering everything, and add to that. And as long as we're financially healthy. So I'm in support of this, and hopefully we can get this done. So I saw a hand come up, and Councilmember McCluskey.
Okay, thank you. And to your point, Mayor, and also Mr. Eklund, a comment prior to the meeting indicated that even though with the local streets this is very minimal to go in and do these chip seals, if it comes down to a full repair and we haven't done our due diligence with even some of these minimal repairs, it's less likely that we may get additional funding or grants to support that, because we hadn't done the medical treatment on those streets to keep it up to a certain level of grade A, B, C, or D, whatever grade it is at right now.
Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor Figueroa. So, decided this would be a good chance to chat. On this issue, a couple of different things. So, this is one of the tools the state legislature has given us. And when you meet with them, they are always asking, have you used the tools we gave you? And more specifically, they ask about this one. Have we used the street, the authority that we have for vehicle licensing? We used to say that the answer was yes. Now we said, well, not that full authority, and that's a little bit of a dance. The legislature would like us to use this tool as well in its full capacity. And frankly, we actually do need to find some method to backfill the cost of our street repairs. So when we made this change in 2020, is that right? We could see that this was going to be a shortfall in 2026, 2027. We saw it coming. We knew this was going to be a future question. And what we did, in my view, is we had a tax abatement for our residents, and we took $30 off the bill for car registrations for the last 5 or maybe it's 6 years, whatever that number. Excuse me, for the last 4 years. By 2026, it'll be 5 years. So we had an abatement. We rolled back taxes. Now, I'm not sure how many people noticed that. So far, no one has ever mentioned it to me, but maybe they've mentioned it to you. Maybe someone said thank you for rolling that back, and they don't have to say thank you. We're here to make decisions, and we do that. But this isn't a surprise, and it's something we knew that would be coming, and we knew we would be short. And so if we don't do it here, where else would we do it? There is the expectation by the legislature that we would use this. And then there is such a direct relationship to owning a vehicle and paying for street repair that it's pretty obvious to folks what this is about. This isn't the issue of that we sometimes have, trying to make this connection between some source of revenue and a service that no one quite understands. They pretty much understand street repair. They know it has to happen. We also know if we don't do it early, it's going to cost more later. If you reach a certain point where you can put a cover back on it, so to speak, but when your sub-base gets destroyed, you have to rebuild the street. And so you need to come in and fix it before you get to that rebuild stage, or else it's going to cost many more times the cost of putting asphalt down. We need to be, as good stewards, we need to see that we have the tools and the money to be able to do this. This seems to get us there for the next number of years, 2044 rather. So there's a direct relationship to what the fee is and how it gets used. There's an expectation that we use this. We largely knew this was coming, and we just need to decide if we're ready for that. I can, in my own mind, be somewhat glad that it doesn't take effect immediately. I think I'll sell a vehicle, and maybe other people will manage the costs too. But the fact that it happens in 2026 gives us all a little bit of time to get ready for that and anticipate it. Councilmember Wood, I'm with you too in terms of we just did a number of tax increases that have continued for us to be to do the things we've needed to do about getting our community safe and other issues just in the general work that we do here. And I'm getting awfully tired of this, of raising tax rates beyond the 1% property tax rate. That's just standard business in my world. So I don't foresee any more of this happening. I never say never. But this is, to me, there's a relationship, an expectation. We have to do something about this to be the stewards that we are and to fulfill our roles. So, yeah, I'm not happy about it, but it's what we need to do. And it isn't so much that well, I guess we can play word games. I won't bother, but it would increase the amount, and that's what the citizens may end up noticing. So, in any case, at this moment at this stage, I feel like I would be supporting this when the time comes. So.
I will make a last comment here. It looks like we're almost too close in here, and that is that, in the past, we've been very reluctant for many reasons that's been mentioned. But at the end, we, like Worthington said, this is a tool that was given for a particular reason. Cities were going to the states and give us money for our streets, and they're saying we don't have it, and here's a tool. And pay as you need from your own citizens, from in your own city. But we shouldn't be looking at the negative as far as half glass not being a glass not being full, and that is that we should be looking at the benefits. The benefits and the savings outweigh the tool we're about to use, and that is that savings. We talked about if we do this, look at the savings we'll have down the road. I think that the savings is that if we don't do this, we're certainly going to be looking at a bigger, much bigger bill in 10 years or 15 years. And our job is not to be handing over to the council or the citizens, just because we're not on this council 15 years from now, a huge debt that's not being realized. And we realize it. And that is the cost of replacement. And the savings that our citizens can be given and not have to worry about a big fat bill at the end, because we're trying to save them, a few dollars here. And the other one is that we're always responsible for being financially sound, and we're not talking about just government, but also our citizens. And to me, that's when you can provide a savings that's going to be much bigger than what they're going to pay now. That's providing them some kind of financially sound ground that they can continue living here. And they're saying, I got to move. I can't afford what they're about to assess me because they didn't take care of these streets. So that's my last words here. And with that, yes. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to be candid and say that I am giving it some more thought. But I am hesitant. I have some of my own concerns on any additional burden on our citizens right now. And I do also see that our transportation patterns, I don't know if it was Jack or in one of another presentation, have changed dramatically since COVID. People using streets less. Our growth of our travel of our streets has not grown like you would expect. So I do take that in consideration. I do hear what you are saying, and I thank you for your hard work on this, and I'm thankful for my colleagues' other thoughts and fortitude to think forward. But I would not be being candid if I did say I was on the fence on this, and thoughtful of the burden that it placed on citizens right now in such a strategic time of inflation. And so those are my thoughts at the moment.
Okay, so as far as direction, there's a resolution here that staff would like to have bring back to the council. Is that what I believe is the direction you're looking for?
Yes, and we don't have a dollar figure in that draft resolution, so if there's...
Okay, I believe, and I'll ask anybody opposed to putting the $40 figure there as was discussed.
I have reservations, as I shared with Mr. Mayor, but nothing else.
Okay, so I think that we have direction for the $40. And because of the comment and because of what on the last one, I believe this would be a full consideration. Okay?
All right.
Is that, I should say, Council, are you okay with bringing it back as full consideration versus consent? Okay, I see how nods heading, so yes.
Consideration.
Okay. So any other direction you need on this?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Okay. Thank you, Council. The next study item is 2024 carry forward budget adjustments. And this is led again by Leslie Blaisdell.
Yeah. Much easier.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Leslie Blaisdell, Finance Director, and tonight is the study session for the 2024 carry forward budget adjustment. The carry forward adjustments recognize the carry forward of funding from the 2023 budget for reappropriation in 2024. The reappropriation is comprised primarily of beginning fund balance adjustments, capital improvement projects, internal service fund carry forwards, and continuing grant funding. We have also included some other requested adjustments which are detailed in this memo. For the benefit of newer council members, I want to just give a little bit explanation on carry forward budget. I have worked in other organizations that follow the use it or lose it budget method. So at the end of the year, the departments would look and say, oh, we have this money we didn't spend and it's going to go away, and I would see them all rushing out and just spending the money on maybe things that weren't needed. Here at the city, we do carry forward budget. So our departments, they have savings throughout the year, and there's no rush to spend that money because they know that in the following year, if there is a project that didn't get done, they can certainly carry that forward if it still needs to be done. Or maybe something changed and something increased in price, and they can carry forward those dollars to be used for that. And we do end up spending less because nobody's out just trying to burn through that budget because it's going to go away. And staff is confident that their needs can be filled. So I just wanted to kind of give the difference because we're just throwing out terms like carry forward budget. So
Thank you.
So the most significant change you'll note is in our restricted and CIP funds. This change is mostly reflective of carry forwards and revenues and expenditures in Park CIP, Public Works CIP, and Municipal Facilities CIP, and the related interfund transfers that fund those projects. And as you know, appropriations for capital improvements are continuing in nature and don't lapse at the end of the year. So for all of our projects, we will budget them in full in the first year of the biennium, and then, because we don't know how quickly the project will be done, how much will be spent, and so then at the end of the year, the remaining amount carries forward into the next year to complete the project. In Public Works CIP, we're carrying forward fund balances and previously budgeted 2023 project expenditures totaling about $28.6 million. And that's just carry forward of projects that were already budgeted. That's what was left. We're carrying that forward. There were also a few other needed adjustments. The first one, which already came before you in April, there were cost increases needed for the 67th Avenue Phase 2 project of $1.3 million. This was approved by council to use our one-time monies when you awarded the contract back in April. Additionally, there were two other projects that require some additional funding. As you know, we apply for grants years in advance, and we've already talked about inflation and costs going up. So there are two projects. The 35th Street Phase 1 project requires an additional $350,000, but that can be funded by REAP, which are restricted revenues for capital improvements. And then the 35th Street Grandview to 67th project required an additional $80,000, also can be funded by REIT. We are also including $210,000 for 2 pond rehabilitation projects funded with swim fee monies, which, as discussed when the fee increase was improved, these are items that need to be done pursuant to NPDES and the Surface Water Management Program. In the municipal facilities CIP, we're carrying forward previously budgeted projects totaling about $319,000. And the other adjustments in that fund include the costs to install EV charging stations in the parking garage for city vehicles. We've added more and more electric vehicles for city staff, so we're installing those for those electric vehicles. We've also received a grant to add more public EV chargers in the garage. We received a grant of $180,000. I'm sorry, the project is $180,000. We have a grant of $75,000, and the remaining cost is also included to be covered by REIT funds. And then we're including the $160,000 for the tenant improvements to Suite 102, which was included in the lease approved by council on May 6th for the new lease down on the first floor. There are 2 new requests that are included in here for council's consideration. $250,000 for Phase 2 of the sewer rebuild project at the Public Works Shop. This is required by the Department of Ecology to put in new catch basins for the Vactor decant. Hopefully Jack can tell us what the decant is if he's still here. And provide connections from that and the fuel station to the sanitary sewer. And then $250,000 for the construction phase of the Public Works Shop expansion. Council did fund the design in 2023. They've now gotten those numbers back. The cost for the expansion is $250,000. So that is for council to consider. And lastly, in Parks CIP, we're carrying forward the fund balance in previously budgeted projects in the amount of $2.3 million. And then the other adjustments is the other portion of the EV charger grant. That project is $439,000 to put EV chargers at Cirque Park. The grant amount is $170,000, and the remaining costs would be covered by Parks impact fees. So before I move on, don't want to go too far and not leave any time for questions. So I want to see if anybody had any questions on the CIP information.
Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, a couple. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate the report. So I don't know that we need to take up group time on this, but I just wanted to plant the seed to maybe in my next briefing that I get from staff. Could I hear a little bit more about the use of REIT for the actually, it's the the new chargers for the public works or city vehicles. So bottom of page 1, 250. Yeah.
The $105,000 being funded by REIT for the public chargers in the parking garage.
Not the public chargers, no. Well, actually, yes. I have a quick question on that. Are those in additional or are they replacement?
Those are additional.
Okay, thank you. And then there's the 250. I thought we had some charges we're putting in for city vehicles in the
yes,
garage?
That's $22,200. That one is not funded by REIT because it is for the city vehicles.
I'm good then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, I just got confused over the use of REIT, and that helps clarify it. And then So the EV charging for Cirque Park, the amount of impact fees that are going there is 260,000 or something?
219,000.
219,000. Okay. All right, I guess I'd like to chat about that too in my briefing. So, okay. I may have further questions on those later, but not right now.
Okay, I don't see any other. Oh, excuse me. I forget. Yes, I have you down. Councilmember McCluskey.
Yes, thank you. I too was keen when I heard about the EV chargers at Cirque Park and the amount of almost $220,000 coming out of our park impact fees. I understand what EV chargers do, and I think that's probably a nice location, ease in and out, but little under $500,000 for EV chargers at this time versus some of the other park capital improvements that we can do. I'm not sure that I can always get informed that at this time that's like the greater benefit for our parks and the improvements of that, to take that much out of our parks impact fees. So I would like to know a little bit more about that, and also how the rest of the park impact fees is going to be used to sustain some of the projects that we would like to do at our parks. And the other one was the REAP funding. That's taken a big hit with some of these adjustments. I know there's a time frame that we have to use the funds with.
Not REAP. Impact fees have to be used
Impact
within
fees.
10 years. So parks
REAP.
impact fees and traffic impact fees, but REAP, there's no time limit.
Okay. And I don't know the fund that's in REAP. Can that sustain that? The amount of fees that you want to take out of it to make these adjustments for these projects?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the addition of the public EV chargers in our parking garage, is there a need, or are they being used to the capacity that we need additional ones? Because once we put additional EV chargers in our parking garage, it takes a spot of somebody, parking with a gas vehicle or just parking. And I know that there are times I'm circling our parking garage and there's limited space already.
I can certainly get that information from Lisa Potoric, who put together the grant package. I know that the chargers that we currently have are often full, but I can certainly get the information from Lisa because she put this proposal in.
Yeah, and we do charge for those, right?
We charge
They're not
for the
free.
ones that we currently have, yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to have a little more information on that, and also the capacity of the parking garage, because as we're encouraging people to park in the parking garage, I wanted to ensure that we have the capacity for our citizens and visitors to park, and it's not taken up with EV stations, especially if we're going to do additional ones at Cirque Park. So I think the logic as to where we're placing the EV chargers in our city, how strategic that is, I would like to know a little bit more about that as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a shot at this. I also have concerns. Now, my understanding, Ms. Blaisdell, is that this is the council. If we approve this, that's the approval. to move forward with that $219,000 from Parks and Rec fees. We have not approved anything before, right? So this is
Right.
critical, council, that, whatever we approve here is saying that we're moving forward with this. So I don't, let me ask at least one question here, and then I have a comment that is, usually to me, impact fees come from a development, right? And that development, if I understand this from everything I've read about impact fees, is that the government is obligated to provide and lessen the impact around that development, around that neighborhood. So what has happened around Cirque Park lately that would require $219,000, almost $220,000 to contribute to Cirque Park? I know the area, so I haven't seen any developments. Or so some big development occurred some time ago that didn't get spent. But to me, we haven't had the parks impact fees that long. And if I remember right, I don't remember anything since those things being enacted that it's such a big project that would have contributed in that area to allow for this kind of money to be used for that.
So the parks impact fees aren't specific to an area. We've had a parks impact fee as long as I have been here. It has been on the books. The use of the impact fees is to enhance park facilities. It's collected on new residences with the assumption that you're bringing new people into the city. We need more parks facilities, and also to do things that increase usership of the existing parks. So,
okay. Well, that's one thought. I don't necessarily agree with that model, and we don't have to agree with that model. And I'm trying to at least give you my view as council members that. Excuse me, let me finish, please. And so I really think that we should be thinking more about maybe not in the same neighborhood and the same street of improvements, but if I'm a developer and I'm pitching in a couple $100,000 and all the improvements went from, Grandview and 27th to the other side of the town, when there are improvements that usually every neighborhood, an area needs some kind of park improvements of some sort, that should be considered first. And I think if that's missing, and maybe we should have a study session on this and really revisit how do we want to distribute park impact fees that we collect from a developer. And I'm seeing our city attorney about that, but we'll save that for another day. For a study session.
We could say that discussion for...
Okay. But certainly we can challenge that as a council. So, because I know that nothing's been out there, and even if that was the model that we want to use, and we're maybe forced to use for whatever reason, I would not really, EV chargers not in with all the things that I see that needs to be improved in parks for our children and youth. I think it's very limited users for that $220,000 plus the $50,000. So basically almost $300,000 for EV chargers. And we didn't say how many chargers.
I believe that was 10 in the parks.
10?
But I could be wrong. I'd have to pull that number.
I think that...
It might have been 10 total. But
I think I like to pull that out. My preference is not to have that. We need to have a more in-depth conversation about exactly, where we want to locate. We're going to spend that kind of money. Do we want them at Cirque Park, or where it's out in the open, and or do we want it at somewhere else where near town center where it's going to be more in and out and things like that? So I think that requires a lot more than just saying, yeah, let's go and put 10 chargers for $300,000 at Cirque Park. That's my feedback. So I'll go. I don't know who went first, but we'll get to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. So I have a few questions related to this. That just as I'm sitting here, obviously I've been going to these climate conversation meetings, and one of the big things has been, grant money for EV charging. And I can see that we've got some grant money funding part of this in both of these projects, one in the parking garage and then one at Resort Park. What is the required, or if you know this, what is the required grant percentage for match for these particular grants? Because right now we're doing, like these grants are funding maybe 35-40% of the total cost, when a lot of grants only require like a 20 or 25% match from the city. Do you happen to know if there's a matching percentage required on these grants?
This one was, the grant was submitted for the cost of the projects, and they came back and said, we will give you X amount of dollars. This is what we're going to give you for that project. There are some entities that are not accepting some of those funds, so the last time I touched base with Lisa, there was a possibility that we could get some more of that grant funding as they redistribute what other entities don't take from their allocation. But the grant was submitted for those two projects. $439,000 was the cost for the Cirque Park portion, and then the other one was losing my place. $180,000 for the parking garage one, and they said we'll give you $75 towards the parking garage, we'll give you $170 towards Cirque Park, and so we are matching the difference on the project.
Okay, so
that's what's included here.
Right. So a couple related questions then is, first, how long do we have to make a decision or before the grant funding expires?
I will check with Lisa Patorik on that. I don't have the grant documents with me tonight. So.
Okay, and then probably another Lisa question. If since they decided they would fund, 35-40%, and we decide we want to build 5 chargers at Cirque Park instead of 10, could we do that within the parameters of the grant?
Mm-hmm. All right.
And then one more question related to the chargers in the parking garage, and understand that the chargers in the parking garage are really to support customers here at, coming to the Village of Chambers Bay. Do we have any idea if the private residences that are on either side of this public space, if the residents of those private residents are using these chargers more than the visitors, or do they have their own chargers in the apartment buildings to our left and right?
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay.
Sorry.
I yield. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm fairly certain that residents do use the chargers. I don't know how many customers do. I think it's probably primarily residents that use them. And it's a public good question. There's some maintenance things that happen with the chargers, and there's some upkeep that we need to do as a city, as the operator. We're doing some cost recovery on it now, but everybody can get that information directly. There's times when it's full. There's times when there's spaces. I pulled in tonight, there's spaces. I can hook up, but I can charge at home for cheap. So anyhow, yeah. And there may be public, I think it's a question in our minds if there's public good in installing additional capacity. And so in the garage, and then, yeah.
Okay. So, Councilmember Fleming?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leslie, you may have already stated, but I'll ask it again just so I understand. So your grants are for $75,000 without a match requirement. Why not just build the program to the $75,000 versus putting a match to it?
It was I believe the program was built. We submitted for the grant, and they said, we can give you this much funding. They had a certain pot of money. They took all of the
Right.
requests that they got, and this is what they gave us.
Right, but there's nothing that precludes us from dialing that program back and just funding it through the grant funds, right?
I don't think there is, but that Lisa Patorik is the one who submitted for the grant, so I would have to double check the grant thing as to whether we can say, well, thanks for the 75, but we're only going to do 75,000 worth, or.
I think the comments that several of the council members have made are pertinent and really worthy of us looking at this and saying, do we really need to spend more money on this versus putting those dollars in other areas within Parks and Rec that we have talked about throughout the year? And this, say if we got 75, that's what we build to, or whatever that number is.
Yeah.
Versus saying just because we had a great idea, we have to build to that idea. I think I once heard a council member say, you know, we got to live within our means, and this is a good example of that.
Councilmember McCluskey?
Yes, and my last comment on this, I think we need to be really do a comprehensive look at where we technically put an electrical gas station for people to come in and park. Typically when they have the EV chargers, a gas-powered car can't park there and enjoy Cirque Park. So if there's that slot open, that slot is lost to a citizen's use of it. It is a kind of an industrial looking feature to it. I've seen the one in Ocean Shores that is, they hide it behind a retail complex. So maybe looking at what is the best place to put a EV charging station that the public has spent money on for private use to come in and, you know, charge up their cars like a gas station. What would be the best place in University Place to do that? That is aesthetically pleasing, and our citizens can have access to all the amenities that they've paid for, including parking in the parking garage and going to Cirque Park. So if there is a public use for that, then we should, as a council, figure that out comprehensively in our city diagram where that would be best placed. And maybe just one place instead of like 2 or 3 different places. We are only a city of an 8-mile radius, not that big. So that's my final comment. Thank you.
Councilmember Worthington?
Thank you. Yeah, so a few things on this, and I think there's a whole host of additional details that would be good to hear about, and I think most of that is probably better in the briefing sessions, at least for me, just because, among other things, Leslie is very well informed, but I don't think she was directly involved with the grants and such. So, yeah, and all. I did have a chance to chat a little bit with Lisa about the project in Cirque Park. And so I know some things about that. I don't know if other council members have those conversations or not. The Cirque Park one, though, does involve a rapid charger. It's sometimes referred to as a phase 3 charger. And so it's a quick charger. And that takes a different type of infrastructure. And one of the reasons it's located there is because the infrastructure is generally available. So that's a little bit of it. There's multiple chargers, but what makes that one expensive and special is the level 3. But we all need to hear more about that. And my question is very much what I think I'm hearing other council members as well. Is this the priority for park impact fees? You know, it probably meets the test. I don't know. I'd like to hear if it does for sure, because I have a little pushback on that myself. But regardless, let's say it does meet the test. Certainly our question ends up being, is it a priority for this council? And so that's one of the things I think we get to work through. Parking garage spaces, some for electric cars because they have charging infrastructure next to them. Yeah, those are for electric cars and such. But I don't know as a fact, but when I parked my electric vehicle in the garage today, I noticed that there were other electric vehicles that were parked in the mechanical, non-electric spaces, like I did. I don't park in those charging areas unless I would be charging. It's as much as etiquette as anything else. So the space is available. So it isn't really that they're segregated.
No, I'm not saying that.
So, okay.
No, I wasn't saying that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying it was taking the space of somebody that could use it, that is actually coming into one of our retail businesses and spending their money, which is the point. Yeah. And so if we look at, and basically it's it's like a little gas station, electric gas station, that they come in and they charge it up, and sometimes they stay there the duration of their time. You know, they'll sell not only to charge it up, but they'll take that space for it. And so my concern is to take away that opportunity, because we know that the turnover value of a parking stall is very high for retailers, and this is a retail center. So why should we have a EV charging station and that has that potential of precluding people to park there and to use our retail space? Wouldn't there be another place for it in our city instead of here?
Mm-hmm. So I certainly we could have, and I think we probably have done some analysis. I think I have the floor. I don't think she did.
A point of order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm on point of order. What I'm saying is that this is a study session on the budget, not on where EVs should go and how many and location and all that. And it's mentioned maybe a study session or something else, but it doesn't belong in this conversation. Is my point of order, which unless somebody really disagrees with me, please say so. But I think that I'm correct. So I'd like to move this on, or we can do a study session, because that's what it's turning out to be, where EVs should go and how many and who's using them. No, that's my point of order. So I think we need to move on with the budget, and if we can agree on the EVs being part of this, that's really the subject matter. That's what I like to talk about, not where EVs should go or not go and all that.
Okay. Well, my concern is that I was following suit with the other council members, and I was just clarifying Councilmember Worthington, because he
I'm speaking to everybody.
misunderstood what I said.
I'm speaking to everybody. Brought up the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if there's any more conversation about the budget, and we can here pretty soon provide direction that we need to pull that, and we'll figure that out. Another is what I'm hearing, but yeah. So it fits on that subject. Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you. What's the timeline for this adoption?
I was just going to say that there is no timeline. Right now it was set that at the next meeting this would come back for council approval, but we can certainly add more study sessions, fine-tune it before we bring this back for approval. There's
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, but if we agree pretty much on everything other than that, I don't see why we need to do that differently. I think that there's a lot to talk about. I mean, even can we use the 75,000 only, like somebody says? Has this gone? This is impacting the parks capital projects pretty much. I haven't heard where that lies, who put it on the improvement on that list to become a priority, and what other things were on that list. What about the commission? There's so many other questions. So I like to, I'm making a suggestion for direction here from the council, is that we pull that and continue for the rest of the budget. Any objection? Okay. So
Yes.
I'm going to have Councilmember Grassi. Did you raise your hand?
I was just confused on what you just proposed.
Okay.
I couldn't quite
So
hear you.
what I said was we need to pull what I'm hearing, and we can't agree with this, and we need to just pull it and continue with this budget and finish the business here. We can pull that and make that separate. It doesn't have to continue with this here.
Are you
Instead of
talking
waiting,
clarification? Are you talking about
I don't want
this
to.
item?
What
or
I'm
the
saying is,
whole-
I don't want to revisit this whole thing again. I think this needs to be, passed and just take out that one line item. There's no reason to revisit this again on another study session.
I think there is.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we have to. That's why there's 7 of us.
Yeah.
It's not just one.
So
Mayor Pro Tem Wood.
just for clarification, to make sure I understand what you're proposing, that we leave in the, well, let me rephrase it. We pull out for further study in a study session the EV chargers in the parking garage, the EV chargers at Cirque Park, and then do we want to leave in or remove the one for the 22,000 in the parking garage for city electric vehicles? I propose we leave that in along with everything else, and just pull out those two different separate line items. But there's other council members who have a
Correct, and
position as well.
that's what I'm hoping to get some clarity on, council members. So, Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the more we talk, the more confused this is going to get, but my understanding in the beginning was your proposal to carry everything forward except the park CIP. Now I hear
the other one that.
right now I'm hearing a proposal that we kind of do a line item on the park CIP and then carry the rest forward. So I'm not sure which one we're looking for consensus on. You know, and I don't know how that works for you, Leslie, but you know, it would make sense since it's park CIP to leave it park CIP and pull that whole section out, have the conversation, and then move it forward after that. That's my 10 cents.
Well, that was another one that Mayor Pro Tem mentioned.
Right.
Regarding the EVs at the garage.
Right. He proposed a line item within the park CIP, and I'm just saying, just pull that whole section out and move forward with it. And then we can bring it back and do it all at one time. Does that work?
I just want to clarify, you want to pull the whole park CIP section?
It would make sense, and then just send it forward as a package versus...
I would just pull the new item, which is the EV chargers, because
Correct.
the remaining 2.3 is current projects that we will need a budget for them to do the current projects that were started last year, and we need to carry forward the remaining funds. So
Got
if
it.
we're gonna
Okay.
pull something, we would
I
just
agree
pull
with you.
these new items as opposed to the carry forward.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Well, two things that I agree with Mayor Pro Tem is the EVs regarding Cirque Park, and the other item, which is on the first page, and that is the EVs at the public EV chargers, which has nothing to do with the park. But the public EV chargers in the parking garage, should pull that as well.
Right. Yes. That was Leslie's recommendation, and I agree with that.
I don't think so, because that was...
Okay, so with that, I'll...
One more piece. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. The first, in municipal facilities, the first EV chargers in the parking garage for city electric vehicles, that one was discussed with council when we purchased the city's electric vehicles. We've added 2, possibly 3 electric vehicles now, that there would be a need to put some chargers in that are for city vehicles, because we can't.
We're not proposing to pull that.
You don't want to pull that one.
Very
It's just
clear.
the new ones.
We're
Okay.
talking
I just wanted to
about
make sure I
the
know
public
which ones.
EV chargers in the
Okay.
garage.
Perfect.
That's what we're talking about.
Correct.
Perfect. I just want to make sure I know what we're.
So, is everybody clear on that? Okay, so that being said, are there any opposition to pulling those out of this carry forward?
I said yes.
Okay, I didn't hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
I did when you first asked that 5-10 minutes ago.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so anyone else?
why don't we just,
Councilmember Worthington.
then look, let's just send this to a vote to turn when it's on your agenda. We can amend it by motion then. So if this is how you want to do it. But you're not going to get consensus here if I'm here.
Okay. So be it. So you're right. At the meeting, we can leave it as it is, and we'll have this come back as a consideration, full consideration, and we can then pull that out at that point. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But we can have another opinion, and this is where, and we can do it differently.
That works,
And-
what you described.
And I don't think that you outvote everybody else.
So, no, I don't. I'm just one. But if you're operating on consensus, it only takes one. And you're operating on consensus in the way you phrased your
It
question.
only takes one. Okay. So that is correct. So with that, we will lift the budget carry forward with a direction that they come back and as a consideration, and we then do what we need to do then. Okay? Is everybody on board? Any opposition? Councilmember Boykin.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have opposition for the dialogue that I'm hearing. I am looking for a clarifying question to ask, and hopefully that staff can help me with that. And it just, for me, I'm trying to make sure, based upon what I've heard and what I'd like to question based upon the format that's in front of us, other adjustments include, as opposed to new requests include? Is there a differentiation that you can help clarify?
In this case, that's a new request.
That's a very new request.
Yeah, it's other adjustments is not carry forward of funds. It's an adjustment that was made outside of carrying forward unused funds for use in the next year.
Okay, and so my last clarifying question is, because new requests do include a reference to EV chargers or EV work, is it your understanding that all EV work is suggested to be pulled out with the exception of the city's need to install EV chargers that was identified by the $22,000 some odd dollars? Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I think that is clear to me, and someone raise their hand and correct me, but the direction is to leave it as is and bring it back as consideration.
The second part of the report.
Oh, thank you. We still have another part to this.
Oh, yeah.
So move on.
Okay, so expenditure carry forwards include, we've got general fund, which includes, various things, sub-area plan implementation, projects that were started and not completed or were pushed to the next year. Some of the larger amounts, succession funds, as you recall, council has budgeted dollars for succession planning with the number of staff planning to retire. We had about $237,000 unspent from last year. We're carrying that forward for future use if needed. The 2% contingency calculation, putting that in the budget. I don't put the 2% contingency in the forecast because if that was in there every single year, we'd never have a fund balance. So we just carry forward to make that 2% each year because I can't remember the last time we spent any contingency funds. It's there for an emergency. We also have the $7.1 million in ARPA projects. In the street fund, they're carrying forward $95,000 for mostly it's streetlight parts and supplies. We're also carrying forward $370,000 in the pavement maintenance funds that were budgeted and unspent being carried forward for use this year or in future years. We also are carrying forward $170,000 in what was recovered from damage to streetlights, and that helps them beef up their supply of their stock of poles so that the next one that gets run over, we have the poles in place, in stock to put them in. In the Police and Public Safety Fund, carrying forward about $465,000 and includes some specialized legal services, adjustments to the contract costs, unspent special overtime, and then we received some state one-time monies a couple years ago that they have been spending sporadically, so we're just carrying forward what's left as they identify a need for using those one-time funds. We're carrying forward the monies in the Affordable Housing Fund, as well as the Opioid Abatement Fund. And then machinery and equipment in swim and fleet, there was quite a bit budgeted, and timing from when we order vehicles has been very long in the last couple of years, so there were several items. In the swim fund, it's the Vector truck has been on order for a very long time, and so we just keep carrying that forward until that truck comes in. Last I heard, they were thinking July or August, but I don't have a definite date on when that's coming in. And then there's about $18,000 in the donations fund. The IT fund is requested carry forward of about $1.2 million, consulting, information services, some radio costs, systems replacements. The large one at the bottom, the replace computer software is that's the amount that's set aside for the finance system that we have started the replacement of that. We've started implementation. We're building the chart of accounts right now. So that $380,000 is for that project.
Oh, excuse me. Councilmember Fleming.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leslie, just a quick question on the radios, for the PC radios. Back when we passed the tax, the 9/11 tax, that had a sunset on it, and with the sunset, there's a one-time replacement cost for radios and other equipment. Does the city, is the city eligible to participate in that one-time funds when they come due?
I am not sure, but I could certainly check into with Glenn on those orders. I believe this was an order of radios that they placed last year and hadn't come in yet, so he's carrying forward the funds. But I can certainly check into that one
If not,
time.
we should put that on our radar.
Good question.
So, we also, make sure I'm in the same place here, sorry. The mid-biennial adjustment also recognizes some adjustments to revenues. We prepared the 23-24 budget back in 2022, so we always go through and double check our revenue assumptions. We review all revenues for adjustments, and some of the significant changes are in the general fund. Detail. We are doing some increase to sales tax, the park sales tax, water franchise fee, and electric franchise fee. That's the one that we get their gross numbers from the year before. On those, we do about a 3-year historical estimate to come up with those revenue projections. We're carrying forward the ARPA monies. There was a sale of one of the town center lots that was originally projected for 2023. They're now thinking it will happen in 2024, so we're just carrying forward that revenue from 23 to 24. We're reducing our REIT fund projections by about $58,000 and increasing the swim fees based on the fee adjustment that council approved at the end of last year, so we're making that fee adjustment. We have some new revenues, mostly grant funding. There's a middle housing grant. Police received a $12,000 wellness grant. We are getting some money from the SWIM Flood Control Opportunity Fund. And then IT has a grant for some cybersecurity projects.
It's just back to the town center land sale, 721 plus. Staff has mentioned an opportunity fund around $4 million. And that's from land sales that we've put the money there, correct?
So several years ago, I'm not even sure what year, council, there was $4 million in general fund dollars that went to some public works CIP projects. All of the land sale money stays in the general fund until that $4 million is paid back, and then whatever is left in land sales will go into public works CIP for projects, is the current forecast. Is that the $4 million you're referring to?
I don't know. I just I can be specific. Mr. Frederiksen has said, used the words opportunity fund, and for about approximately $4 million to that fund. And the reason I'm asking is that 721 part of that $4 million, or is it different? Is it going to be added to that $4 million? So I would ask Councilmember Worthington to help me out, because he's heard this when we were dealing with the bridge in D.C. So
yeah, my recall is exactly what yours is as well.
So it wasn't as complicated as you said, which does not end up being an opportunity fund that has not been designated for anything else.
I'm not certain what we're referring to as far as an opportunity fund, but I will double check.
Can we clarify? Because you said it's completely something different for land sales. And in my understanding, that $4 million was from cumulative aggregately from land sales. So we need to really clarify that, because we've been pounding the street for the bridge that we may have enough capital to do our some kind of a contribution.
Are you referring to? I think we may be referring to the $4 million from the general fund ending fund balance that council set aside.
No, he said opportunity fund.
Okay.
Which is in the general fund, but he identified it as that. So my question, along with all that, is the 721 in part of that or not part of that? I mean, so we need to just clarify where we're at with those. With that. Okay. I just had one more before.
Well, I was going to move to extend our meeting.
Excuse me. So go ahead, make a motion.
I move to extend our meeting from till 9:15 to ensure we can cover all questions for the remainder.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So my next one is what is the Flood Control Opportunity Fund? I never heard of that. So what is that, and where does it come from? Who gave us an opportunity fund for SWIM?
I believe that is run through the county. It's county monies, and it's similar to a grant. You apply for a portion of the Flood Control Opportunity Fund monies, and they turned that in for a couple of projects, and we received $350,000.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. There were some additional non-carry forward adjustments to expenditures. They mostly include changes to salary and benefit estimates and cost increases to medical benefits and different things there. In parks maintenance, a change was made to the staffing plan that's included in this for council's consideration. The initial plan, when we brought landscape maintenance in-house back in, that was April, or discussed that change. The initial plan was to hire one full-time employee and 2 part-time summer help positions to bring that in-house. They have had difficulty hiring part-time positions, or even the struggle on the street side. So we are including in this request to hire 1 FTE rather than 2 half-time 6-month positions for that landscape maintenance.
Okay, Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor. Is the position also temporary, or will it move to a full-time?
This would be one full-time position.
Full-time regular, full-time temporary?
Full-time regular.
Full-time regular. Is that, so that's an additional FTE as opposed to temp?
Instead of 2 6-month temporaries, 6-month summer helps, as we like to call them.
Right.
2 6-month summer
But
helps.
that's,
right.
yeah, so, I mean, that sounds like that's outside the scope of the budget that we were anticipating, so, I don't know. I guess I have a question.
I'd like to add to that. I think that, hopefully I have this right, but they did present something to this effect, I believe, and that was that the 2 part-time was costlier than 1 full-time, so by not doing that, they can actually use the same amount of money as 2 part-time summer helps and to 1 full-time 100%. Yes. Anybody remember that?
So what I think I just heard, though, was it's a continuing position and not a temporary position.
We were going to add 2, we were going to have 2 6-month summer helps every year, and they are having trouble filling that. Nobody wants to work 6 months. And so replacing it with 1 FTE. It is a bit more money than 2 temporaries, but then we also get that coverage for other parts of the year outside that 6 months.
That's what it was, right? Okay.
Yeah, that it was going to.
Okay, I guess that still leaves me with wanting to see some numbers on that, I guess. But, yeah.
And hold on a second. I'll get to you. The other part of that is when you say hire 1, is that in addition to the first FTE that was mentioned there? So you're hiring 2 full-time, right?
We were going to hire 1 FTE, 2 6-month summer helps. We have already hired the 1 FTE, and now they'd like to do another FTE instead of 2
So we'll make sure.
months.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember McCluskey.
Thank you. So let me get the staffing matrix clarified. Because when we hire the 2 summer part-time helpers, it's for the summer. You know, it's where they have the most growth, weeds, the summertime help where there is a need. If we hire one all year, we're still short one part-time staff in the summer because that capacity for that work is not being satisfied. So how do they foresee to create the 3 matrix in the summer where I would believe they would have the greater need?
Jack would have to, Jack's the one who came up with the staffing and said, right now they can't even get the 2 6 months.
Right,
and
right.
so I believe he.
Yeah, I understand that,
yeah.
but how's that going to satisfy the need for the 2 during the summer with the 1 all year round? Thank you.
Councilmember Fleming?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leslie, I know you're now hearing kind of the same old song, but, at a blush, when you say, hey, I'm not going to hire 2 people, I'm going to hire 1, you go, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go ahead and do that. But, to Councilmember McCluskey's point about you're losing the manpower at the peak when you need it most causes questions. And then the second piece to that is, to your point, 1 FTE is definitely more expensive than 2 part-time because then you got to add benefits. And that, a lot of times, most people, majority of people only see salary. They don't understand benefits, which is a lot bigger sometimes than we think. So I'm baffled at the whole proposal in terms of let's just do 1 FTE versus 2 employees and all's good at the end of the day. It's not, and so to Councilmember Worthington's point, before I jump in this pond, I really need to see those numbers because they're just not making a lot of sense tonight. I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Boykin?
I was just going to echo the need for the numbers, and not just because Mr. Eklund may have some clarity about the numbers is what he addressed, as opposed to a capacity that we may be believing has a significant capacity to be addressed. Not to suggest that that means that hire 2 more full-time employees to make sure that we address the need. It's just that without those numbers and more information specifically around what Jack Eklund is alluding to, we can't really figure out how the best way to be supportive. So I just would echo the numbers are necessary, but just importantly, an explanation from Mr. Jack Eklund.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. One-time monies, and we've done this calculation the last few years. After all the adjustments were, carry-forward adjustments were included, we had one-time monies available of $1,474,000. As you know, Council had already given authorization when they authorized the 67th project contract to use 1.136 of those one-time monies for that additional project money. That leaves $114,948 in one-time monies. In the current forecast, that is in ending fund balance, but that could certainly be pulled out and put in a contingency line item if Council would like to use that money for something else, or just leave it in the ending fund balance. The financial forecast has been updated to include all these adjustments, and all existing services and contractual obligations can be met during the 23-24 biennium. And that concludes all of the changes. And if there's any additional questions.
Any last-minute questions, comments? Direction-wise, you heard about the EVs and all that. On this last part, I think that we leave it all in there, like Councilmember Worthington suggested, which is great, and we'll go from there. I suggest, though, what I heard is that bring more information about that line item that possibly can satisfy our needs to move forward with yes or no. Otherwise, we'll have to pull it. Any Anyone opposed to that direction? Okay.
Do we want an additional study session or just schedule it for,
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, we just come, yeah.
okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. I think we're done, right? Right, okay. The study session is adjourned.